Hello everyone and welcome to another farming tutorial for Nicholas the Traveler. This week he's looking for these shiny silver coins, which drop from Corsairs in the Nightfall area. Since they are the sort of medium level coin drop, there's the copper, the silver and a golden version. They drop from specifically groups of Corsairs in the Mittani keys. Other Corsairs, which are of a lower level, will only drop the copper version, and the higher level ones will only drop the gold versions. So I suggest starting from Kotlono Hamlet. There's a fairly large concentration of Corsairs right here in the Mittani keys, which is quite convenient to farm. I'm using a Spirit because it is convenient and obviously one of the easiest versions that any class can run. If you're confident using a different build, of course, you can do that. The path to the Corsairs is fairly long since they are at the back of the area, so you will have to run quite a long time to get there. But the drop rate is quite high, so chances are you're not going to have to make this run very often. Most groups along the way can be avoided quite easily. These scale groups contain frigid scales, which have snares, because they're water elementalists and they can snare you. So you can either avoid them, as I'm doing right now, or you can fight them, assuming your build is capable of doing so. If you're running a Spirit Spammer build, then it is quite easily possible to kill those scale groups, including that the boss group right here. That there's not much of an issue killing them if you're running a Spirit Spammer bar. If not, you might have a different build and that might have slightly more trouble dealing with them. But the Corsairs are usually more troublesome than the scales along the way. And once you're at this point, as you can see, you can get there easily without aggroing any enemies. This is where the farm actually starts. This is where the first group of Corsairs is standing. So you just do the usual thing depending on your bar, of course. They are largely ranged enemies. Some paragons, some monks, some rangers, as you can see. That makes it somewhat less useful to bring a VOS kind of spiker build, because it's not as easy to get them nicely balled up. Which is also the reason I'm not running Painful Bond. It tends to only hit one or two of them, and that's really not terribly useful. Just in case, on your first run here, and if you don't regularly do it, here's a treasure chest, one of the nice treasures located throughout Nightfall. About once a year or so, that will contain some fairly good loot. But it deteriorates afterwards, so yeah, basically just a kind of side note, but maybe once a year or so every character that you have that has access to Nightfall should just do the run and get all these hidden treasures. It's a nice change of pace, I guess, and it'll net you some money and some golds, and you know, you can get lucky and get some valuable stuff. It's not terribly likely, but at least it's possible. Along the way, you'll also find a fair amount of, over there, they are iron-toothed drakes. Again, depending on sort of the exact nature of your farming, it might be worth your while to kill these, or it might not be. They're not very dangerous. If you can deal with the Corsairs, you can easily deal with the iron-toothed drakes. The reason you do that is because they drop chunks of drake flesh, which you can trade in for drake kebab, which is... it's not bad, it's a nice buff food, which I think it still sells for a fair amount of money. Now, Nick wants 2 coins per gift, so for a full account's worth of gifts you're going to need 10 coins. And they really do drop quite well. So in my experience, at least, it's going to take you 1 or 2 runs to get the sufficient amount of coins that you require for one account, and then, of course, multiple accounts, it'll take longer. including the possibility of decreased drop rate as time goes by, which is always being speculated about by the community. Now in my case, as you can see, all I do is basically put down my spirits and then occasionally summon them to keep them alive and let them handle the damage. If you're running a more involved build like a VOS Spiker or a Frenzy Mending Warrior, whatever you choose to run, you might have to invest a little more effort than that. The nice, or one of the nice side effects of doing this farm, aside from that hidden chest which you find, is that the Corsairs have a fairly good drop rate on minor runes, so they will drop unidentified, I guess, armor pieces, which you can get runes from, and just you might get lucky if you get a good insignia, such as Windwalker insignias, which do drop from those guys, since this is a Nightfall area, or say minor vigor runes. They're also quite handy. It's just one of the things that that this farm also provides you. So yeah, when you're doing this, pick up the unidentified runes that you find, and if there's runes on them that are worth selling, that's just a nice bonus, which, depending on your luck, might actually be better than the content of the gifts that Nicholas gives you. I've put the mini-map on the screen now so you can see the route I'm taking. This group here is one of the instances where Painful Bond would be kind of nice, because you can put down your spirits and then aggro them using Painful Bond, but I didn't bring it, I brought Dash instead. And the reason I use Dash is mostly to be able to break aggro, and that's mostly useful in running to the farm. It's not so much relevant as you're doing the farm, because you tend to have fairly small distances between the groups of enemies, so most of the time you will end up just putting down your spirits and then standing there. The enemies aren't particularly dangerous, especially if you've got a vampirism that basically heals you. As you can see, I'm not really getting in trouble here, even though I've got aggro from the boss. The boss can also drop multiple of the coins. That's pretty much the case with any Nicholas farm, that if a boss of that particular trophy type, I guess, exists, they always have a chance to drop multiple of that trophy, because bosses can drop up to 3 items. So you can get 2 or sometimes even 3 of the trophy that Nick wants from a boss of that type. And yeah, as you can see, really getting a bunch of coins here, it's not that hard to farm them. It does take a bit of time getting there, but once you're in the Corsair camp here, I guess, it's just a matter of killing them fairly quickly. Yeah, and as you can see, the path, it wasn't that long. It has some enemies on it, but really nothing to worry about much. And the way I go about the farming route then is I take this way. You could also run around this way right there and then circle back. I don't think it really makes much of a difference. And there might be Corsairs in other parts of this area. I don't go into those. I find this is to be the fastest route to get as many kills over time as possible. And while unconfirmed, it is believed by many that the first few enemies you kill in an area, or the first few minutes you are in an area, there is decreased chances of getting good loot. So by doing this farm, especially if you're killing enemies along the way, if those rumors are true, then you would still be getting a good drop rate, because yeah, you You don't start the killing of the actual enemies that you're farming until quite late, and you kill other enemies first if you do the boss group and the scale groups on the way, which I guess you might if you're looking to have an easy run or a sort of non-risk run, and there we get a rune. As always, of course, with Nick farms, do not do this in hard mode. There's no point. Hard mode makes the enemies harder and does not increase the drop rate of trophies. There's a group of coursers that kind of patrols off that way. I don't bother with them. It's 3 or 4. I think it's usually 3. I don't know if it's sometimes more actually, but they're definitely not worth the effort of running after them and trying to kill them. Just do the groups around this island right here, the one I'm currently on, and you will have plenty of enemies to get yourself stocked up on the coins very quickly. As you can see, I'm already on 40 of them now, which means I got more than 10 on this single run, and it's not an atypically good run. So that just goes to show it really doesn't take very long to farm these. I think this is the 4th run I've done this week, and I have enough for over 4 accounts if I wanted to. So yeah, as you can see, it really is a very quick farm. It does take some running to get there, but the drop rate is very good. Yeah, I'm guessing that really is all there is to say about that matter, of course. Once you're done with the run, which at this point you would be, just do the usual thing, resign. It'll return you to Outpost. Start over. Now there's one final trick. There's one final trick to this. And that is, if you plan to do a lot of runs, for example, if you're looking to sell these items, then I would advise you zone out of the portal and then zone back into town before starting the actual run. That way, whenever you resign and respawn in town, you won't be put at one of the random spawning locations in town, because there's always multiple ones. Instead, you will be put at the location closest to this exit. It's sort of a quirkiness of the game mechanics, and basically that's useful for every kind of farm where you go repeatedly through a portal from a town. If you're using the resign method, for example, for farming the raptors in outside Ratasum, that would be another place where that's viable. You just walk out and then walk back in, and then you walk out and do the actual farm, and then every time you resign it'll put you as close to the portal as possible, which it doesn't save much time if you're only doing, say, 5 or 6 runs, but if you're doing hundreds of runs back to back, then it really does save some time. Okay, I'm guessing that's all there's to say for it, for that farm. So yeah, that was a bunch of coins and not a very long run. So yeah, I hope this helped you, and let me know if you found a better farming route. Bye bye.